I don't think that Google wants to promote that SEO is dead or, anything close to that, because they don't really know, it seems like, what is going to happen next in search. And so this is kind of their bet that they're making right now. They have to do something to answer back to the instant answers that you get from Perplexity or ChatGPT. So they have to do something, because after you start using ChatGPT or Perplexity, the last thing you want to do is start wading through 10 links that look antiquated now. And so they have to answer to that, and it's a really precarious position. But when you fast forward through that, the natural question is SEO dead? What happens to SEO?
I can sort of dispose of that very quickly. It depends on how you define SEO. If you define SEO as a certain set of tactics that have come to be used by a lot of content marketers to manipulate Google search results or rank higher according to certain kinds of best practices, yes. I mean, I think this changes things. But SEO, if you define it as a discipline that's about optimizing content and optimizing websites for exposure, then no, it'll just adapt. It'll evolve.
Exposure, relevance, importance,
right, it'll evolve.
Not just, it's got to be good content and relevant content and authoritative content.
Well, let me ask this. I mean, so my big question around it has been, I'd be curious what you guys think, that so many of these sites, they rely on people landing on the site, right? Like that's the way their funnel works.
That's a more interesting question.
Yeah.
So let me give you a kind of anecdotal example of something that may become more common. Neil and I are trying to decide on using a survey tool. So SurveyMonkey is the default because that's the brand, but I was trying to do some due diligence. So I found an article on, I think, Tech Radar or some site that did a detailed comparison of these two SurveyMonkey and another tool. I copied all the text, I put it in ChatGPT, and I asked it to summarize the comparison, and it did that. It was still pretty extensive. And then I started asking a bunch of questions. Does it have this? Does this one have this? At what price can I get this? So it essentially took the information in the article and it allowed me to manipulate it and get my questions answered rather than reading that article on that site and getting those ad impressions.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I think that kind of thing, at least I'm doing that a lot.
That's
and
pretty
I think
disruptive for the ad model.
Super disruptive for publishers. I mean, hugely.
I won't see that ad at all. I mean, I don't want to take I don't want to take ad revenue from publishers, God knows. But it's just much easier and more efficient for me to not read that person's article in the way that it's been structured, to get ChatGPT to summarize it, and then to ask my questions of that article.
But if the ad model goes away, then that content won't be there for you to source to do what you just did. So it's
one of the big questions I had, which is sort of what is the incentive, especially for publishers, to go and create this content if this is the outcome. Now, and I've seen some speculation. I tend to think this might be where things go. That right now, if you look at the conversion rates around folks who use content to bring people in. Of course, they have a ton of people who are not buyers. That's the way it works, is that I'm looking for this information. This site has it. I have no intent of buying anything or doing anything with my click other than learning about what's there. I think if I have decided to buy, I'm going to have to click through to a site. Generative AI isn't going to sell me something. I'm going to have to click through to a site to consummate. So yeah, that's a good point. So for now, if that's the case, then it may actually end up being that clicks to the websites collapse, but the conversion rates expand, to a similar degree. Meaning, I get a lot less people who come to my site, but the people who do come are actually there because they may be buyers. How does that help a publisher? I don't know that it does.
Transactions, then they're probably going to be whole, perhaps.
I mean, presumably this also this drives up the price of ad units if this plays out this way, right? So everybody's, all ad units are based at some level around what the conversion is that somebody can get against, putting that ad against this set of keywords. And if all of a sudden that conversion rate goes up by 10x because whatever, then you would expect the market to respond by the price of that unit going up by 10x at some point. I don't know, just I speculate.
So the traffic becomes more valuable to a publisher. Sell it for a higher value, naturally.
Yes.
And what will need to happen in that experience is that your user experience is going to need to get elevated as well. You're going to have to publishers are going to have to do something to create a better user experience than overlaying, 5 different pop-up ads when you're clicking on a mobile link to an article, and all you want is the recipe for how to
Yeah, that's the recipe blog scenario. And it's
I don't need all these pop-ups popping up at me.
Oh my God, 2 video units and the pop-ups, and you're scrolling through 15 different tile ads. And it's just, my solution to that is I always go to print if they have a print button. And print gives you a largely ad-free version, video-free, typically.
You can just do a recipe search now in ChatGPT and ignore.
Yeah, but you can't trust it. You can't trust it.
Too much Elmer's glue. Too much Elmer's glue.
Sauce is fine from ChatGPT.
Did you made a low risk cooking investment.
Small. Barbecue
just don't ask it for pizza.
I know well enough that what the ingredients should be, so I knew it was going to be okay.